you all again. This evening is an important example of what we can do when we come together, working just among ourselves. We're the party that cherishes self-reliance and the individual's right to life, to liberty, to the pursuit of happiness. I want to talk a little bit about two themes. One is the threat that we face, and the second is, what can we do that makes a difference? We are really getting close to the end, maybe, of a long-standing campaign to destroy the United States, to destroy the vision that Ron was talking about. We have raised up a generation now, a self-loathing generation, that is riddled with guilt over all sorts of historical atrocities that were really, for all practical purposes, over decades ago.
Right.
Our schools are mobilizing generations of ignorant, brainwashed children as a vector for some horrible revolution. They're taught to hate the greatest figures in American history because they were old dead white men who owned slaves. And they're taught to practice this new modern politics, which is nothing new at all. It's the oldest thing in the world. It's the tribalism. We see the rise of mob rule in Portland as our city government experiments with how to raise up a mob that they think they're going to be in control of. A couple weeks ago, I went to the mayor's listening session where the mayor and the chief of police stood up at the front of the room and sat there on the dais, and this crowd of leftists performed like trained monkeys. There were hundreds of yellow cards, and they were printed on one side, listen, and on the other side, lies, so that these people didn't have to think at all. They could just act like a mob and follow whatever the leaders flashed on their little cards. And I told the mayor and the chief of police that as a small and unpopular minority, with maybe 14% of the voters, we didn't feel safe in Portland. And that hiring a bunch of leftist propagandists to teach the police about white supremacy and white privilege wasn't going to make us feel any safer. But of course, the city government's not about helping us. We're the deplorables. There's nobody who's going to help us but ourselves. We are long past the point where we can depend on any of our leaders to save us, even President Trump. It's like what Patrick Henry said back at the beginning. It is natural for man to indulge in the illusions of hope. We are apt to shut our eyes against a painful truth and listen to the song of that siren, the hope, till she transforms us into beasts. Beasts who maybe just sit around on the couch and watch TV. The truth is that our leaders have failed us again and again and again. We now have more federal judicial vacancies than the day Trump was elected. There's not a single federal agency that is fully staffed. Why is that? That's because our Republican leaders in the Senate have let the Democrats run wild. And here in Oregon, even as we face a full-scale invasion on the southern border with the Free Stuff Army coming through open borders, our only Oregon Republican congressman has voted to try and stop President Trump's emergency declaration. He's been busy the last couple weeks voting to put huge areas of Oregon off limits for any development. He's running propaganda in the Bend newspapers about how we all have to come together to fight the terrible specter of climate change. So the truth is that a lot of our votes for our leaders, they may slow down the collapse a little bit, but we are still sinking fast. The truth is that when we as Republicans are pushing a political philosophy where we just want to be left alone, but there's this other group, the Democrats, that wants to dominate and control everything that we do, the classic conservative model of politics doesn't work anymore. We can only keep our freedoms by defeating the people who want to take them away from us. And we have more and more people living in this country who want to put us under what is a totalitarian socialist rule. We will only be free if we can drive those who are no longer our countrymen from the public square and make their beliefs and views and idiocy stink in the eyes of the public. And what's special about us in this room is we are the remnant who can still see that truth. That is a rarer and rarer thing. That is a valuable thing. That is the starting point for our efforts, because all over Multnomah County, there are people, especially young people, who are hungry for the truth. They realize that they live in a world of lies. They know that someone has stolen their future, but they have no idea about what really happened. We know. Ron knows. You know. We know how crooked judges have sawed off one piece of the Constitution or another piece of the Constitution, created nearly all the problems we have. We know there's no such thing as a free lunch, that if we spend ourselves into a pit so big we can't measure it, it can't come out well. We know that we'll always have the poor with us, and we'll always have the rich with us. But if we know that if we let the poor and the rich treat the government like some mother goddess that they can fasten onto her nipples and suck it dry, it will destroy us all. We know that government by social justice, Bob, that's not justice. We know that Martin Luther King had it right when we were supposed to judge people by the content of their character and not by the color of their skin or how high up on the identity totem pole they sit this week, right? Who else can teach these truths but us? Are the Portland Public Schools going to do it? Is the media going to do it? Are these cowardly leaders who are afraid of telling the truth because it might offend somebody going to do it? No. There isn't any freedom fairy that's going to come around and spread magic dust on the voters and save us. It's up to us. It's up to teach these things, like Ron said, one voter at a time. We have to do it the old-fashioned way, by talking to people, talking to our fellow human beings, whether it's in the church, or it's on the job, or it's on the street, or it's on the phone. It's one voter at a time. And it will work because we can have confidence in our principles. Most of you have seen that little one-pager, I'm a Republican because, okay? It doesn't have to have the Bible in it. It doesn't have to have references to how the Lord said that the people shouldn't have a king in 1 Samuel, even though he did. It's a simple statement that when people read it, they agree with it. These core principles are true. They are popular. It's ironic, that we have so many supposed anti-fascists here in Multnomah County. Benito Mussolini, the most famous fascist, summarized the philosophy in one sentence. Everything within the state, nothing outside the state, nothing against the state. Doesn't that pretty much describe the Oregon Democrats? Really? But that's not the future that Oregonians want. They don't want that. Sure, we're going to have to overcome prejudice, okay? Prejudice against us, prejudice against Republicans, but we can use that prejudice. Voters will take interest in what's unusual and different and noteworthy, and that's us, Republicans, telling the truth in Multnomah County. A Republican counterculture is more and more attractive to young people who are sitting in these schools and realize that they're being lied to all the time. If we can just approach people with humility and an open mind and listen to their concerns, we can change minds. And with each person that we reach, we hope we've accomplished something important. There may not seem to be much glory in this, okay? There may be no credit given, but this changing of the mind, this bringing people to the truth, that is work that lasts forever. That's something more important than tweets and Facebook and websites. These are just tools. These are just tools you use to learn things and to meet people, but it's all about real change that comes one person at a time from talking to people. To be an elected PCP, as so many of you are in this room, that should be an elected leader who stands for something. We should all strive to be not just someone our fellow Republicans in the precinct know, but the non-affiliated voters know too. Our courage and our willingness to speak the truth will bring in more and more people who are concerned and very concerned about what's going on. And when the elections come out, we need to go out and harvest ballots, one vote at a time. Our enemies are raising armies to do this, and we can't make progress if we don't do that too. All over Multnomah County, year after year, there are people sitting in their houses. There are people sitting in old folks' homes. They would be glad to vote Republican if someone just helped them a little bit. Somebody just went and harvested that vote. So I want to stay in closing. Stay strong. Let us stay strong in the faith. We're all stuck in the sewer of rising socialism, but we as the Republicans are looking at the stars. We look for a future of freedom and a future of prosperity. We know that whether it comes in our lifetimes or after some dark age to come, it will come again. And our efforts to reach out and enlighten our fellow human beings with the truth, to lead them away from this path of darkness, that is work of eternal significance. And I'm proud of you all for helping in that work. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.